like hustling, just trying to get wealthy. And I think, everyone has to do that at some stage. But then over time, I realized, hey, I'm giving up my health for wealth.
I love this concept of a life resume. We can be so focused on what we're accomplishing in our career, but actually, what's more important here? To be able to have that time with your family and your health, in those relationships, those experiences.
Yeah, so there's this concept called the Horvath clock. And what that's saying is you have a chronological age, which is, so for me, I'm 49, but then you have a biological age. So how fast are you aging and can you make your biological age?
Welcome to Leading to Profit. I'm your host, Kevin Bees, and I've dedicated my career to empowering business leaders like you with the leadership skills, performance psychology they need to build thriving businesses. Are you ready for immediately actionable strategies from world-class profit leaders? Let's dive in. This is Leading to Profit. Welcome to episode number 255. Today, we have a top 1% marketer in the world. He's a growth hacker and his name is Greg Cassar. He's helped people like Richard Bandler, the NLP co-founder, Russell Brunson of ClickFunnels, people like Dale Beaumont, Mel Emery, and been an advisor to the Australian government. He's helped scale more than 350 businesses as founder, coach, partner, or agency. His team is responsible for more than $500 million in sales online. His portfolio companies do up to $2 million per month. He's a multimillionaire investor with a proven track record of teaching it to others. And he gets to live a lifestyle that he loves, a lifestyle by design in a tropical paradise where he gets to surf every day. So Greg, welcome to the call today.
Excellent. Thank you, Kevin, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Hey, well, I'm very envious of your lifestyle. I spend a lot of time every day in meetings and serving people. And, I really enjoy that. And then I get on the call with you and you're like, oh yeah, I've did some work and helped people in a group today and I've had a surf and a nap. So tell us, how is it that you're able to have such an impact and make such a difference on the businesses that you serve and yet, have all this time, flexibility and live your lifestyle by design?
Yeah, it's a great question. One of my business partners in the travel company that we work in, he said to me, he goes, Greg, you're the only guy I know who runs multiple companies and who doesn't do anything himself. But I took that as a compliment, like in that basically what I've been able to do is I've got this philosophy of the self-managing company and the self-managing team. And I've got sort of a whole bunch of frameworks, but the goal is for me to steer the ship, but not do the rowing. So I have within all of my teams, I have team leaders and then ideally a number two, because you never want just the like one is the worst number in business. And at the start of the week, we all meet. I meet with each individual team and kind of like agree, hey, what do we need to achieve this week? And then later on in the week, we have touch-base meetings. So say, for example, Thursday, something to that effect, and we go through everything that we were working on. And basically the way that it works is no one really wants to turn up to the meeting. If you think back to school, no one wanted to turn up without their homework done. So we do that and everyone turns up and basically they've got it done. And we use visual project management, things like Monday.com, where it's really, really easy. So green is it's done, yellow is it's a work in progress, and red means it's not done or there's a problem. So just like visual project management, and then that kind of system, and being able to look at everything that I was doing and then figured out who else could I give that to in the team, who else could take it and run with it. And one key thing I've taught them is ownership. So say I was giving you a task, I'd say, Kevin, are you right to take this and own it and see it through to completion, or do you need me to do it for you? And with that kind of languaging, no one wants me to manage it for them. They're like, no, I can do that. And so I empower them how to run their own department, steer their own ship. And then what I do, I teach my leaders to do, and they do that with their team, and it works amazing.
I love the framing on that question. Can you take this and own it, or do you need me to do it for you? So it's a very powerful question. You make the important thing about a self-managing company, a self-managing team. I mean, over the years of being in this industry, there's many companies and many books that kind of encourage that. I think the E-Myth would probably be one of the first places a lot of entrepreneurs read about. But what I recognize after having been in the industry so long, only a very small percentage of business owners get to the stage where they can truly separate themselves from the company and have it so it's self-managing in that way. So you mentioned some really powerful things here around making sure your team take ownership and making sure you have visual project management. What else? What else do we need to think about if we get to the place where we can steer the ship but not have to do the rowing? What else should we be setting up?
One of the key things is to make sure that people understand the tasks and the project. The first thing is like to figure out whether someone's a project worker or a process worker. So say, for example, you might have someone in your team and they just want to get the system and they want to know we do this first, then we do that, then we do that. That's a process worker. So you want to have process workers in process type jobs where it's just like do this, do that, do that. But then you've got other people who are like project workers and they want to build stuff but they're not, those people generally are not very good at running things day to day. So you have project people who build things and pass it over to process people. And so that's been a key distinction for me. And then the other thing is like, say, for example, I was going to pass a task over to you. There's a framework for how we do that. So generally, like if I was going to pass it over to you, I would say, hey, let's get together. I'll show you how we do it. And so I would show you how we're doing it. And then we would write the documentation, build the document together. And then the next step is, hey, can you show me how to do it now using the documentation? And if there's any problems with the documentation, let's tweak it as we go. And then, so that way I've shown you, then you've shown me, we fixed the documentation. Then I would say, hey, do you feel confident with that? Yeah, I think I do. All right, you go for it, do the next one, and then show me when it's done. Cool. And then now do you feel confident to run with that and own it? And yep. And then I'll just like periodically spot check a couple of them. And then basically that's how I've taken something that I would normally do, passed it over to you, empowered you, make sure you knew how it all worked, and then get you to run with it from there and just do that over and over and over again. That just frees me up so much.
I love that distinction between a project worker and a process worker. Yourself, as the leader of multiple businesses, which one of those are you?
I'm a bit of a freak on both. So like I'm a project manager, but I'm also an architect. I'm also creative, that kind of thing. But I'm definitely more of a project worker than process. I'm not really that great at, like paperwork and systems, like as far as just boring, do the same thing over and over again. I prefer to build. But part of how I get so much done as well is like how I manage my day. So my mornings are basically mine to get stuff done, other than I've got American business partners. So I can't avoid morning meetings with them because we'll basically have one handover. Their afternoon's my morning. That might go for half hour or might go for an hour. After that, I'll generally go surf because prioritize life and, this whole like lifestyle by design. So many people put life off until, when I retire. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about that sort of thing. But then in the morning, I'll build. So always moving forward. And then in the afternoons, especially like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon, I'll help people who are in the collective, the coaching group stuff that I do. So I'll help people Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon. And then Thursday and Friday are completely mine to just build and do things, So yeah, try and have it. So most of my helping others is either in the afternoon or batched just into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon.
Love it. What a great structure, and hearing that you're building things and moving things forwards. That's your highest priority. That's what you're getting done first, and you still get time to serve your clients. So that sounds like a very powerful structure to have. You mentioned something there, which you said we should discuss further. And I think we should, people waiting to have a quality life when they retire, but some people, unfortunately, they get to retirement and that's it. They're done. They don't have the health, or they don't have the the length of life they're expecting. So tell us a little more about your thoughts around that.
Yeah, definitely early on, I was guilty of like hustling, just trying to get wealthy. And I think, everyone has to do that at some stage. But then over time, I realized, hey, I'm giving up my health for wealth. And so like, as I got more affluent, I then realized, hey, I've really got to focus on health more. But then it really came into like, well, lifestyle by design. And a lot of that is, where do I want to live? And so for me, a warmer climate. So I live, Byron Bay Shire. So that was going to encourage an active lifestyle. I think colder climates are not great for active lifestyle. I think cities are not great for active lifestyle. So if you can be warmer climate, ideally coastal, or it could be country, that kind of thing is amazing. And then design, what does my perfect day look like? What does my perfect week look like? And then I make sure that I'm injecting exercise in, but I make sure that I'm injecting fun in. Either every day I'm like surfing, or I'm on the e-bike, or I'm catching up with someone, that kind of stuff. I'm walking the dogs on the beach, hanging out with the missus, hanging out with the kids. I think so many people put everything off until, oh, I'm going to have this 1 week of holidays the year, or hey, when I retire, I'm going to be able to do that. Like moving forward now, we're going to do a lot more of these, what we call staycations, where we can work, because we were digital businesses. We can work from a location, like whether a Bali, a Thailand, a Sri Lanka, or whatever, for a couple of weeks. You're still moving things forward. Like as long as you've got an internet connection, you're moving things forward, but you're relaxing and not working, full on. So I really believe in that whole lifestyle by design, so that you're enjoying the journey, not, I don't think anyone's ever going to get to the point where they're on their deathbed and they go, hey, if only I'd worked more, if only I'd hustled more. You're never going to have too many crazy stories. So I'm trying to build an amazing life resume. Like I just told you, I just got back from, a week rafting the Franklin River in Tasmania with a group of mates, just trying to inject as many of those kind of adventures into my year as well, like big adventures, but then living every week so that it's amazing.
I love this concept of a life resume. We can be so focused on what we're accomplishing in our career, but actually, yeah, what's more important here? To be able to have that time with your family and your health, in those relationships, those experiences. I love that. So wherever you're listening, are you working on your life resume? As you look back across this year, or the last 2 years, have you put the things on that resume that you really want to? If not, it certainly warrants thinking about it. And you mentioned about being able to work from wherever you want, which is great. Many of us have that possibility now. Our work is online. It's virtual. But how often do we take the opportunity to go and plonk ourselves down in another place? Now you think about Bali, not so far away. You can be there in a day, no problems. Internet speed might even be better than what we have here in Australia sometimes. So hey, why not indeed do things like that? And tell us about that. You sound like you've done some pretty amazing things. I know we were talking just before we got on the call about this amazing whitewater rafting experience. Tell us about that and some of the amazing things that you're doing with your group, The Collective.
Yeah, so one of the things I've tried to do is make business fun as well. So like I figure out, hey, what do I want to do? And then the important things is to get them in the calendar early on, because it's very, very easy to be busy and then not be able to schedule it. So like I wanted to go whitewater rafting and go out on the Great Barrier Reef. And so with The Collective, we decided, hey, let's take them to there and do that activity with them. So we try to inject fun into business as well. So like when we get together for a business mastermind, we'll either do a fun activity to bond the group together. We'll do things like, jet skiing or whitewater rafting or jet boating, just any of these kinds of things coming up. We're doing like quad bikes on an island. We'll do fun things like that bond the group together. And then we'll do, like a business mastermind to help each other. And it's also a fun way of doing like fun activities, but in a tax-friendly way. Do you know what I mean? So it's legit to use business expenses for these things. So like next year, we're going to go to Queenstown in New Zealand. So we'll run a mastermind there. So for us, it's a tax-friendly vacation, but work trip. And then for the other members, it's a tax-friendly thing to do the same, because you're going there for business, but you'll also, sneak in some fun, as you go. So we make sure that we've got like at least every quarter, there's an amazing activity, so that even if all you do is those, you got 4 amazing things on that life resume every year. And if you do 4 amazing things every year, and then over like a 20-year period, so I'm nearly 50, right? I do a lot of biohacking. I'm trying to slow down my aging, but I realize in 20 years time, I'm kind of going to be an older man. Hopefully not a portly gentleman, but an older gentleman. So for me, the next 20 years is so valuable. Sure, I want to make a lot of money, but I want to get a lot of amazing adventures in, over that time.
Yeah, wow. And Queenstown's such a magical place. I've spent heaps of time there, and all the other things, the jet skiing, the whitewater rafting, the quad biking, sounds like a heap of fun. And hey, why not do that with a group of business owners? Sounds like a really great thing to do. You mentioned about biohacking and slowing down your aging. I mean, one of the concepts I've heard about in this is, of course, we have, the age that we live to, which is our lifespan, but also the other side of that is our health span. We don't want to go and live another 20, 30 years, but to be in poor health. So What are some of the things that you're doing from a biohacking perspective to slow down your aging and make sure that next 20 years is good quality?
Yeah, so there's this concept called the Horvath clock. And what that's saying is you have a chronological age, which is, so for me, I'm 49, but then you have a biological age. So how fast are you aging and can you make your biological age younger? So the people that are the best in the world at this, for every like year that they're aging, their actual body's only aging, say, for example, zero point 0.6 or zero point 0.7, but that'll get better and better, over time. So there's actually like multiple layers to it. And the first thing really started with mindset. Okay. And as much as 80% of success, it really is mindset. But it was a mindset and a decision of, I used to be, I'm not proud of it, Ken, but I used to be overweight. I used to be not very strong, not very fit. It just happened over time. And part of it was like growing up in this more traditional Maltese family, what I was taught of, like, you're not leaving until until you've eaten all this, and here, eat this pasiti, eat this pie. Or, like, I thought I was being healthy, but I actually had to unlearn what I'd learned, as a child, because it wasn't serving me. So I made the decision, hey, I'm not going to be that guy anymore. I'm going to be fit, strong, healthy, like moving forward. So that was kind of like the first thing. And then once I had that decision, then I had to decide, okay, well, how am I going to eat? And so that was like going to cleaner foods. So avoiding processed foods as much as possible, but being directionally correct. Because I see a lot of people who do like a diet and then they'll, fall off the wagon again and that kind of thing. So it's about a lifestyle, not a diet. If you go to the supermarket, it's more the fresh fruit around the edge rather than, I used to think I have to walk all the aisles. Now I try and avoid as many of those aisles as possible because I'm just going to buy more processed junk. There's a saying that the longer your food lives for, the shorter you'll live. Do you know what I mean? So you want to go which is pretty powerful, right? You want to go for, if you think about what your grandparents were eating, basically like as fresh, fruit as that. Ideally, it's basically like protein and, fruit, vegetables, nuts, that kind of stuff is, pretty much an ideal diet. They say Mediterranean diet is pretty on the money. So we spoke about mindset, and then we spoke about diet, and then moving into that, on top of that again, becomes things like exercise and strength. So what am I going to do so that, like, my primary one is surfing, but then I'm also got the e-bike, and then I'll also do weights a couple of times a week. Not much, but just with dumbbells. So basically, I try to make my exercise fun. And so that, remember, directionally correct, so that I'm always moving in that right direction. I think if people make their exercise too not fun, they won't stick at it, so I make sure I stick at it. Then I also look at supplementation. So basically, like, food is fuel, but what can we do to complement that? So I'll take supplements such as like NMN. So one made famous by Dr. David A. Sinclair, who runs the Harvard Medical School, like the anti-aging division. And it basically just helps the way your cells clean themselves up, helps the way that your cells age. It's kind of a little bit like an exercise in a pill. If I could only take one supplement, that would be it. And certainly not medical advice, but I'm just sharing from one entrepreneur to another, like what I do. So that is a really important one. There's a whole bunch of other supplements that I do, but on top of supplementation, then is hormone optimization. And a lot of people don't even really think about this, but like I spoke about, I'm 49, and so your hormones drop off over time. So whether it's, testosterone for both guys and girls, the estrogen levels, all that kind of stuff. So all of this stuff starts with full blood analysis. I work with a proactive health doctor and I get full blood analysis. And then from that, I figure out what to supplement. And from that, I figure out how to increase my testosterone. Things like Tongat Ali, which is a natural testosterone booster. Things like DHEA, which is precursor to testosterone, helps you to boost your testosterone. And then I just keep learning, keep evolving, keep changing. Like my hair was receding, and then I had to learn, like what I could do to make a lot of it's about scalp health. So what I could do to stop that from happening, just things like that. Just always be a student of it. And this area is changing so fast. So the way I look at it is, you want to try and lock in as healthy a body, as young a body as you can, because science and medicine is just getting better and better and better. So you're really going to be able to continue to slow down your aging, or who knows? Like they're kind of doing it with mice right now. You may even be able to stop it or reverse it in the future, but that's still to be determined.
Quick question. Are you leaving profits on the table? Discover where hidden profit leaks are draining your business and how to stop them. Download my free report, Stop Leaking Profits, at www.profit.gifts, GIFTS, and start maximizing your profit today. Now, back to the show. Wow. Yes, and the technology is improving rapidly, and who knows, as AI comes on with ever increasing amounts of intelligence and compute power, maybe it resolves that. So it sounds like you've done so much work and research in here, and there's a lot of value in that, particularly when you talk about NMN, if I can say it,
NMN,
and the testosterone levels, and reducing, the scalp getting bigger. Mine's been going backwards since I've been 18, and so I think you definitely have something there I need to ask you about before it goes back too far.
I learned about it from Tony Robbins. It's a Scandinavian skin company, like hair company, and it was really about scalp health. And so every night I put a hair extract in. It's just like I pour a little bit in a cap and then I grab it in a little syringe and then just squirt it up here. And that was how I stopped my hair from going back. And then when you buy normal shampoos at the supermarket, it's full of all like petrochemicals and whatever that's really bad for your scalp. So you throw all that stuff out and then you replace it with Heart Clinic, and again, replace it with their shampoos, replace it with their hair gels, so that you're feeding your scalp and you're making the whole thing healthier rather than unhealthier. And that made a massive, massive difference for me.
Perfect. So important, I guess, our skin being the biggest organ on the body. We really got to take care of that one. So important. I appreciate we've delved into like 2 or 3 different areas already, and I can tell there's a level of depth there. We can probably keep going very deep, in the biohacking. We can go deep in the the growth hacking, doing with business owners, helping them to grow wealth in their business. You're also saying, hey, well, that's not enough. You need to be able to grow your investment as well. Now, you've identified crypto is an area that is really important for people to grow in right now. Of course, there's still many people who are skeptical or cynical, and I think even famous people like Warren Buffett will say that it's it's not worthwhile. So, what are your thoughts? Why should we be taking crypto more seriously?
There's people that don't understand it, and then there's people that get it. There's a saying that like once you understand Bitcoin, you can never understand Bitcoin, and everyone gets Bitcoin at the price they deserve to get Bitcoin at, which is basically like when they really realize what's going on. So if we think about the internet, what happened when the internet first came out? We had the internet if you think about it, like a layer, which was information. You could post up a document, you could post up images, that kind of thing. And then we got a social layer on top of it. So now you could post videos, you could do a post and someone else could comment on it, that kind of stuff. There was social interaction. And that was kind of like where the internet got up to. But there was no internet of money, and then there was no internet of trust. And so since Bitcoin came out, because it uses a technology called blockchain technology, which effectively is just like a big decentralized ledger, it solved the double spend problem. So if I gave you an image before, if I gave you a document, any kind of digital asset before, you could clone it. And now there was 2 of them. And then with this decentralized ledger with a blockchain like Bitcoin, all of a sudden, all the nodes on the network had to say, yes, that is a legit transaction, you can write it. Or no, that's not a legit transaction, you can't write it. So then all of a sudden it enabled digital money to happen. And so Bitcoin is basically like digital gold, and effectively it's a scarce resource that people want. And if all currencies, like major currencies, used to be on the gold standard and they've kind of gone off that. But what that means is that the governments around the world are just printing more and more and more money. So say you earn 100 grand, but if the governments are printing more and more money, over time, that buying power of the 100 grand is like 95 grand, then 90, then 80. So the governments around the world are printing away your money. So the sooner you realize that, hang on a second, if everything else is going down in value, what's going up in value is Bitcoin. So where it used to be like 1 Bitcoin, or if you had 100 Bitcoin, you could buy a house. Whereas right now with 5 Bitcoin, you could buy a house. And then it's going to get to the point where with 1 Bitcoin, you could buy a house. And then it's going to get to the point where with 1 Bitcoin, you're going to be able to buy 10 houses, because Bitcoin it's the best example of supply and demand and mathematics that I've ever seen. It's incredible. So 1 Bitcoin that you buy for say 100 grand right now in the future is going to be worth a couple $1 million, and there's just no way of stopping that. It's just yeah, it's a horse that's bolted. It's incredible.
You have a lot of certainty there. I mean, I think as we talk today, the Bitcoin price would probably be around 60 something thousand dollars
Yeah, yeah,
in
US,
that
yeah,
region.
60, yeah,
6K US. Now we're filming this in October. I know this episode won't come out until early February, so there'll be a lot of movement between now and then. Now,
yeah.
I think you just said it could go to being worth $2 million per coin in the future. How do you have so much certainty that that's going to happen and there's not something that's going to come in and disrupt it or change that trajectory?
Well, it's been out since 2009, and basically every hacker in the world has pretty much tried to hack it. It's the only bit of software that is worth like $1.2 trillion and it's never been hacked. It's gone through multiple phases and cycles. It's now even got the US government endorsing it with the ETFs, exchange traded funds, got some of the largest organizations in the world investing in it. I remember back in 2017, like waking up in the middle of the night and I'm just like, oh, damn, I see it. I get exactly where it's going. And it's just supply and demand. It's as it becomes more and more valuable, more and more people want it. And it's scarce resource. And it has what's called a halving every 4 years, roughly every 4 years, where it's mathematically written into the code that they halve the supply of new Bitcoin that comes out. And if you imagine what happens if you halve the supply of petrol, as an example, and people want it, the price keeps going up. So it's got this inbuilt thing within it that keeps driving, more and more price to go up. So for the average person, like the way to get really, really wealthy is, I was guilty of just doing business, and I did well with business, don't get me wrong. But then once I started doing business plus investing, that's kind of like becomes like a 1+1=3. I always knew I'd be a millionaire. I always knew I'd be a multi-millionaire, but I didn't really know how I was going to get into the tens of millions. And it wasn't as far as net worth. And it wasn't like until kind of crypto happened that I could see, okay, well, that's really how I would be able to do it, because the whole thing runs on these 4-year cycles. And once you learn how the 4-year cycles work, you're then able to effectively buy low and sell high with somewhat not great certainty, but the same cycles happen 3 times. So it's basically the trend is your friend. Yeah, and it's worked really, really well so far.
And the trend is your friend. These 4-year cycles now, these 4-year cycles have had a lot of volatility as well, though. So whilst we'll hit a high number each cycle, it also drops a long way. And I think maybe 80% drop at some point now. Of course, you have an 80% drop, you can come back up. So as you're looking at this cycle, this time around, is it moving in the same way that it has in those previous 3 cycles? I think people were probably expecting a good jump up in the price once having happened back in April sometime, but I don't think it jumped quite as much as people were expecting. So is this cycle panning out the same as the previous ones?
It's similar, but not exactly the same. But after the halving, and then in an election year, just before the US election or just after the US election, pretty much it's always gone on a massive run. And that generally goes for about a year. But the thing is, how people lose their money, you spoke about volatility. If they don't understand the cycles and the timings, they ride it up in price only to ride it back down. And I've personally made that mistake myself. I'd love to say I didn't, but I did earlier on. So that's where, like, the key to this whole thing really is education. You've got to spend the time learning it. So Bitcoin I just hold long term, but then there's altcoins, which are alternative coins to Bitcoin. 99% of them, 95% of them, whatever, are rubbish. They're going to go nowhere. But there are some real things out there that have real utility. Things like Solana, which is, if I wanted to pay you overseas, you say you're overseas and I'm in Australia, and I wanted to pay you using the traditional banking system, it might take 2 or 3 days for you to get the money. It could take like $70 worth of fees, that kind of thing. But if I paid you in Solana, you'd get the money in like a second or two, and then the cost would be like 1 or 2 cents. So every time that superior technology comes along, it does replace traditional systems over time, and that the world is moving to the internet of money and the internet of trust, and there's no slowing it down or stopping it.
I would love to be accessing that now. It bugs me when you pay someone and then it takes 2 or 3 days to get there or arrive. It's like, where's my money disappeared for that time? Why shouldn't it be instantaneous? Okay, that sounds amazing. You present a very strong case for it. And I've certainly made that mistake. And not that I've invested, significant sums of money. I had a little bit of a play fund in the last cycle. And I think Ethereum was one that I went into. Now it shot up massively. I think it had a 14x increase and it come all the way back down. Right. So
Yeah.
now it'd be interesting to see what happens on this time around. But I think I was following the idea of the intelligent investor, which is, you buy an asset and you just hold it and keep it. But what you're suggesting more so with crypto is we should be looking more from the perspective of trading into it when it's at a low price and trading out at it whilst it's getting towards the top. And that way you can actually make bigger multiples on your money because you're getting the benefit of each cycle. You set out at the high, and then of
Yes.
course it gives you more funds to buy, more units when it's lower.
Not day trading, because like every time you sell, especially like I'm an Australian, we have to pay capital gains tax on it. But Bitcoin, I just buy and hold long term and I keep stacking, because the way the world is moving is he or she who owns the most Bitcoin wins. So you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. You can just buy 0.01 of a Bitcoin. Like if every time you get paid, there's this thing called stacking sats. If all you do is when you get paid, you just buy another $100 worth of Bitcoin, another $500 worth of Bitcoin. Just keep going, because you're building a bigger bag of something that's going up like that. It's basically, on average, it's growing 40% a year in value. So Bitcoin, I hold long term, so over many, many years. But then altcoins, yes, I will, but I've learned those cycles. So I know how to buy the bottom and then I know how to time it to get out for the top. For most people, they're not really going to know how to do that, like unless they invest the time in learning it or they get a coach. So for most people, just buying and holding Bitcoin is going to do better for them and it will go up and it will go down, but it doesn't matter because the lows keep getting higher and the highs keep getting higher. So it just keeps trending in the right direction. It's a safer bet for most people if they're not going to do the education piece.
Yeah, got it. Is a safer bet. And now we hear of certain coins going to the moon, I think is the common term. And they
Yes.
can 10x, they can 100x. I think even I've seen some do a thousand times growth. And so what you're saying is, look, for even though Bitcoin may grow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in the coming cycles, that's probably a safer bet than trying to put all your eggs into one basket, hoping it, 100x's and then disappears.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I do a combination of both. So I'll have, for me, but I have a large portfolio. I have up to 30 investments. But for a lot of people, just spreading it across a couple main ones, yeah, could work. Or for people who are not educated in this space, just buying and holding Bitcoin is definitely a safer bet. But really, the key is education, because this internet of money is only going to happen once in our lifetime. That's what people don't realize. It's like, oh, crypto, it doesn't interest me, but like this is the greatest chance for you to get wealthy in your life, bar none. It's only going to happen once.
You heard it here. I'm going to be posting this video up in 4 years, 8 years, 12 years time from now and say, did you listen to it? Did you pay attention? I think this kind of puts a stake in the ground, draws a line in the sand. Greg, you're providing so much value, so much wisdom. I know you've got so much knowledge here. We could probably keep speaking all day, but I'm conscious we have to get you back to your lifestyle by design. You've got other things to go and do with your day. Now, whilst we've been focusing today more so on profit and leadership, I know the home of the show where we originally started was around life-changing questions. So we say the quality of the questions we ask ourselves impact the quality of the life that we lead. With that being true, what's one question that you've asked has had the biggest positive impact on your life?
Wow, that's pretty deep. So Naval Ravikant, do you know Naval? He's a venture
Mm.
capitalist, and he's been like one of the biggest influences in my life in recent years. And he's got this saying where he says, the only true test of intelligence is if you get what you want out of life. Right, I'll say that back again so people have missed it. The only true test of intelligence is if you get what you want out of life. So then I ask myself the question of like, what do I want to get out of life? And then I don't hope and pray that it happens. I then engineer it to happen on all facets. And that's like, I'm one of those guys. Yeah, he got lucky, but yeah, I started online 21 years ago. And then through that time, I've nearly went broke several times. I've been kicked in the guts. I've been like, just about everything's gone wrong. But I just always had that perseverance, just pick myself up, dust myself off. When there's a problem, is crying about it going to help? No. What am I going to do? How do I move it? How do I move it forward? And just that perseverance, and designed life the way that I want it to be. And the way I look at this is, if you get these things right, really the prize is freedom, and the prize is security and certainty. So it's really, really worth learning, really, really worth hustling.
It certainly is. Freedom, security, certainty sounds really important for all of us. And just to reiterate that, the only true test of intelligence is if you get what you want out of life. And so ask yourself that question: what do I want out of life? We have a common connection in Tony Robbins. You've done a lot of work with him. I worked on his team. And he said this, which really sticks with me, is success leaves clues. So if you want to get better in your health, go and find someone who's doing a great job in improving their health. If you want to get better in your investments in cryptocurrency, go and find someone who is doing a great job in that. If you want to get better in your business, go and find someone who's doing that. And Greg, on all of those three topics, you're clearly someone who's having success more than the average. So if someone's listening today and they want to get in contact with you, where's the best place for them to come and find you?
Collective.com.au is my main website for the Collective Mastermind. But on that, there's one particular URL, which is how I help people the most, which is collective.com.au/class. And there's about 2 hours worth of free training videos there that help people on all those facets, like how to scale your business, how to get your life back, exponential investing, and then a bit of biohacking, and then a bit of lifestyle by design. So that's the best way I can help people, I believe.
Wow, very generous. Thank you. So wherever you're listening, click in the show notes. There's a clickable link there to the collective.com.au and the class that Greg mentioned as well. Greg, you have provided so much value today. I can't thank you enough for everything you shared. I'd love to get you back to the rest of your day. Do you have any final messages you'd like to share with our listeners today?
I would say, work smart, play hard.
Work smart, play hard, and get very clear. What do I want out of life? Get very clear on that, and go and find someone who's already having the success that you want and ask them, how do they do that? So Greg, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Cheers. Thank you, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to Leading to Profit. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review. It helps us to reach more leaders like you who are committed to maximizing their positive impact and profitability. Until next time, this is Kevin Lees, and remember, you stop leaking profit when you're engaged in leading to profit.